Hail! Good morning, everybody. It hasn't been so long since I've seen you last. Just wanted to do another video this morning as kind of a companion episode to the episode I put out last night concerning my favorite electronic albums. I guess I felt the need to kind of do this episode because, like I was saying in last night's episode, everything was kind of middle of the road, and I didn't get a chance to really highlight any of the artists toward like the far end of the ambient spectrum that I love so dear. And everything kind of was like I was just trying to like take bits and pieces of everything that I haven't really shown a whole lot. I didn't want to keep like I didn't want to keep hammering on the same artists that I talk about all the time, who are some of the greatest electronic musicians in history, of course. Whatever. And of course, the first comment I get on that video this morning is some dick nose that's like, "Oh man, I can't believe you didn't even mention Klaus Schultz, Brian Eno, and blah blah blah." Like, was really butthurt about the fact that I didn't include all of his favorite artists and his favorite albums on my fucking list. So, which I obviously stated in the very first fucking minute of that video. Like, this is a subjective top 10 list of my personal favorite albums. Like, I don't know why I'm explaining myself. I shouldn't have to explain myself. It's like I'm talking to my fucking children. Anyway, so yeah, I just wanted to do a little companion episode and pull out some more stuff that everyone else would expect to see on this list. I think to a certain degree. So anyway, I'll try to keep it short because I got to go to work. But yeah, we're spinning some nice ambient tunes this morning. So let's go over 10 of my favorite ambient electronic albums. This first one, really fantastic group of two individuals, two gentlemen, project called Infinity Window. Really super cool. Album's called Artificial Midnight. This is a 2008 release. Really cool drone, experimental, a lot of times really kind of just soft, dark, and foreboding, atmospheric, really cool atmospheric shit. Took over, took right over where your precious Klaus Schultz, where he left off. I guess he didn't really leave off because he's probably still making music, but this is very reminiscent of everything that Klaus Schultz ever did with Tangerine Dream and beyond in his solo career stuff. Really fucking cool. So yeah, check this out. Kind of minimalist experimental drone ambient stuff. Infinity Window, 2008. It's called Artificial Midnight. Yeah, badass. One of my very favorite ambient albums. Another one, an artist that I mentioned last night, who is one of my very favorite artists of all time. This album has popped up on my greatest albums of all time, my GOAT list. Everybody look back in the history of my videos and check it out. Watch my video on GOAT albums, my favorite, greatest of all time albums. And of course, again, bringing him out like I did last night, Stephen Roach. But this is the monumental masterpiece of his, like the kind of, whatever, the gem in his crown, whatever silly, stupid metaphor you want to use. This is his most famous work, obviously. Just got reissued recently, so rush out and get it. It's only like $20. This is an original pressing that I found in a bargain bin like 15 years ago. By happenstance, back when it wasn't like worth anything, and now it's worth like well over $100. Kind of cool. But I fucking love this album. Super surrealistic, spaced out, long form. Each one of these tracks is, probably, there's only one track on the second side, it's 30 minutes long, so it's really conceptually driven. Like I said, long, drawn out, super space, atmospheric, ambient, but not drone oriented. There's some really intricate, cool passages where he's really concentrating a lot on melody, which I love, in and out of the melody. practically beatless. There really is. There's no beat. Obviously, there's no drum machine on this. It's all just ambient music. So, one of my very, very favorite albums of all time. Anyone that loves ambient music or electronic music and it doesn't have this in their collection, boy, you got work to do. So there's that. And of course, got to bring up the obligatory, again, you know, just trying to like make everyone happy. I don't know why I care so much. But here's that Eno selection that you need. Double time Eno selection. Him and his brother, Roger. This album's just fucking amazing. Mixing Colors. You can find copies. This is a recent reissue. Probably just in the last couple years. But yeah, just gorgeous. Double disc, 180 gram vinyl. Him and his brother. You know, Roger doing primarily the more kind of like contemporary compositions, you know, piano centric stuff. Really kind of, you know, Brian obviously takes over the atmospheric end of things, the real like kind of surrealistic aspects of things. That's what Brian's really good at. But you know, you can tell they're brothers, you know, from the same line, same blood, same creed, everything. You know, they think alike, and their art reflects that and what they do. And this is just a real fantastic piece to have in your collection if you're an ambient lover. So yeah, talk about electronic ambient masterpiece, Mixing Colors. I'm not sure when they originally released this. Has got to be like an early 90s thing that they did. They were still, he was making tons, Brian, you know, was still making tons of beautiful ambient stuff in the early 90s, and was just doing all kinds of really heavy like art installation stuff, getting real deep into the arts community like in New York City and stuff. And so yeah, everybody needs to check this out. I think you can get it for probably around $40 now. It's on the Parlophone. Oh no, excuse me. Well, I'm sure they released it on the Parlophone label, but this is Deutsche Grammophon actually that did this reissue. So yeah, check it out. Excellent shit. Oh man, this is like, I talk about these guys all the time, but it's just like one of my favorite discoveries in the last 10 years that just, I cannot get enough of this music. You know, the really, again, kind of like darker, drone oriented, lots of like, you know, soundscapes and reels of, you know, tape reels of just kind of like cityscape sounds. You know, you hear just like, you know, weird like people talking on the subway and just like all that kind of really cool like real life shit interjected into these beautiful drone soundscapes that are all just, it's all just basically synthesizers. Sometimes you'll have really cool additions of some brass, like real subtle brass sounds. So they, you know, invite other instrument, you know, or excuse me, other musicians to play on it. And yeah, I won't try to keep going on and on about this because I've talked about them a million times. But this is that band called Stars of the Lid. They are from Austin, Texas. They were making music primarily throughout the mid 90s through the mid 2000s. This is, I believe, like a 2007 release, a triple LP called Their Refinement of the Decline. Just, I mean, look at it. It's just an art piece, you know, triple LP, fucking incredible. Everybody rush out. If you love ambient electronica, you know, especially minimalistic drone oriented ambient stuff, this is for you. You can find stuff out there on LP, but you're gonna have better luck getting it in CD format, and you're gonna pay a lot less money. Their LPs are fairly expensive, so, but yeah, it's definitely a gem worth buying to tout in your collection of ambient electronic. Here's another fantastic one that I just discovered like last year, or maybe it was like it was last year. It was like early on in 2001. This was a early 2021 release that it was a blind buy at my record store. I was just overwhelmed with how pleased I was with it. I just love it when I just buy things blindly and they end up being some of my favorite albums. And so this guy, what's his name again? Osamu Sato. Osamu Sato, Japanese. It's called Collected Ambient Grooves from the years 1993 to 2001. Um, and it's just exactly that. It's some of it's groove based, but not so much to the point where you would kind of like lump it into the category of like, um, dance electronica. It's not dance or like necessarily beat heavy. Um, yeah, that's all I can really say. Is it's certainly not like dance music. It is groove oriented in some aspects and parts of it, but really mostly you're just getting that really awesome ambient experimental electronic sound. Um, but with, some tracks have some pretty steady beats. But like I said, it spans a career of like 7, 8 plus years, from the mid 90s and the early 2000s. Yeah, I'd never heard of this guy. Really super cool. Everybody, it's affordable. It's probably only $15 or $20, so rush out and get it. The art's fucking gorgeous. He's got a whole series of albums right in this vein, where he just like kind of took old parts of his career from the 90s and early 2000s, and with the resurgence of vinyl and popularity, he just like gather all this stuff up and just like find some record company, that whoever it is, that'll buy up all the rights to his stuff and just like put his stuff out there, and it's just fan fucking tastic. So kind of more like the psychedelic hippie groove electronic jam ambient. You'll really dig it. It's fantastic. Osamu Sato. Yeah. Selected ambient grooves. Sorry, collected ambient grooves. Another selection I brought out numerous times, but it bears repeating and constant mentioning. I love that label, Windham Hill Records. All kinds of electronic and soft jazz, and what would be coined new age music in the mid 70s. Throughout the mid 80s, everyone was listening to what was called new age music, but this was more or less kind of in the realm of soft jazz mixed with electronica. Shit I just love dearly. And this is a sampler album that they put out. It's just called the Windham Hill New Electronic Music Sampler, Soul of the Machine. Popular artists that you've seen all throughout the 70s and 80s. You'll recognize a lot of these names, but really cool, awesome, ambient electronica fused with some jazz elements, fused with some, new agey kind of hippie guitar moments, and solo piano and things like that. So definitely worth the time and listen for this if you can find it. It's usually super affordable. People just toss it in the dollar bins everywhere. It's overflowing with this kind of stuff. So yeah, check this one out. It's fan-fucking-tastic. Heading on down the line with some more nerdy, hippie, kind of woo-woo type music. I love Dallas Smith and his album Stellar Voyage. Super spaced out, very, single synth heavy, just heavy on the moog and stuff, and just really conceptually and melodically driven though. Sometimes, you just need stuff where you're getting a lot of really catchy, cool piano melodies mixed in with like the Moog sounds and the super cool synthesis. So this is a perfect amalgam of all those types and styles. And the art is gorgeous. Everything's themed on this. It's all space themed. Stellar Voyage. These are photographs that were taken. Some of the very first real high resolution photographs that we ever got of heavenly bodies within our solar system. So yeah, the late 1970s was good for nerds, nerd music and everything nerdy. So everyone check out Stellar Voyage by Dallas Smith, one of my very, very all-time favorite kind of piano-centric electronic music. So all right, getting down to the final couple hits here. I've mentioned these guys before. I've brought this album out. I love the Japanese. I love everything they were doing in the late 60s and 70s and into the 80s. This is a group of two gentlemen who, by way of the art scene and like, the kind of booming economy, technocratic society that Japan was, really just pushing through in the late 70s and early 80s, and just were at the forefront of everything, technologically speaking, in music and art and industry. Huge exposition centers that they were putting up, and huge art and museum installations. That's where these guys met each other. The name, the title of their group that the two of them call is excuse me, Enoyama Land. Enoyama being a mashup of both of their names. Please forgive me while I look. Yasushi Yamashita, so there's the Yama, and Makoto Inoue, so that's the Ino in Enoyama Land. But yeah, this album, Danzinden Pojidon. I don't know what any of the shit means, but I love the cool, like, topographical design of the album. The color is beautiful. I was saying that they met each other in and around, like, the art scene and the music scene, and they were friends and collaborators and cohorts with, like, famous names like Ryuichi Sakamoto, and yeah, you know, super famed composer, film music composer, and he was like a pop artist in the 80s in Japan as well. They were friends with Satoshi Ashikawa and his, like, big record store and art installations and stuff he was doing in Japan. He unfortunately died a tragic death in early 1983, I guess. But yeah, they all ran around with the same crowd in the art scene, and their music was picked up and used in, like, museums and art installations. Really beautiful album. Minimalism, Japanese minimalism, ambient. Both of them just playing strictly keys. One of them mostly playing piano, and the other mostly playing, droned out cool synth. But lots of really cool ideas and concepts and little chirps and warbles and stuff that was kind of more reminiscent of the early stages of electronica, like what Isao Tomita was doing, with really just experimenting with just odd, cool sounds and the whole instrumentation and technicality of everything. That's what these guys remind me of. Yeah, blah, 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 long-winded. Sorry, I love the shit out of these guys. Also wanted to mention a fantastic album they put out, a double LP called Commissions. I used to have it in my collection. I think I sold it at the last record show I did, which I shouldn't have done because it's a magnificent album. It's called Commissions, and it's a big collection of all their commissioned musical pieces that they did for art installations and museums, and it was all centered around a museum piece they did based on micro photography of slime molds. So you have all these, pictures in this art exhibit of, like, close-up micro photography of slime molds. It's really fascinating and really fucking cool. And then you have their music surrounding the whole thing, and it's just, yeah, they're those types of artists, just magnificent artists. So getting down to my last tippy top two most favorite ambient electronica of all time. You guys have seen me bring this out before. Of course, the Wave Notation, part 1 in the series, Music for 9 Postcards by Hiroshi Yoshimura. It doesn't get much better as far as minimalistic ambient electronica. From Japan, early 80s, 1982. This guy wrote the fucking book. He wrote the book on it. I know you would think, like, well, it was 1982. Obviously, he wasn't like the early king of it all. I know, but he just kind of, like, he brought it into the fucking limelight, and made it popular to people in European societies, and it was just starting to get really noticed, and he was just kind of the king of it all. I love his, like I said, hyper simplistic, minimalist Rhodes piano. That's it. Creating just these really fantastic, beautiful themes, and melodies, just on a simple Rhodes keyboard. And that's basically it. He does do a little bit of other synthesizer work on it, but it's very, there's very little of that. So everybody just needs to have this. If you like ambient electronica, I mean, this is it. This is the bee's knees. This is the top of the hill, the cream of the crop. So definitely one of my hugest, biggest favorites, greatest of all time on my list, greatest of all time albums. And of course this one. Here's that Brian Eno that you need so dearly. Of course, Ambient 1, Music for Airports. Yeah, I don't need to talk about this, do I? It just is it set the bar. Set the bar pretty high. Everything in the Ambient series is just phenomenal. So all 4 parts, get all 4 parts. But yeah, I have this original press of Ambient 1. I love all these cool little, you know, designs, art designs on the back. Yeah, I don't need to go on about this. This is, you know, the best. It's the greatest work of ambient electronica ever created. So, also on my list of greatest of all time albums. So, there's that. There's the compendium episode to my electronic episode that I released last night, talking about ambient electronica this morning, spinning ambient music, having some coffee, getting geared up. I'm gonna go work, gonna go get dirty, do the thing, live the American dream, right? Love all you guys. Thanks for watching my channel, and have a great day. Peace be with you, fuckers.